and we have none other than, I'm just going to say special.
Oh,
special.
Yeah.
I always say we've got a guest. I'm going to say special today.
Special guest.
We've got a special one in here. We have Charles Gordon in the building.
Hello. I think
I don't know what else is needed.
Yeah, the pause was needed.
I don't know what we're doing that introduction, guys.
We needed the pause for sure. So, Charles Gordon, tell us about yourself for anyone that doesn't know before we get into the wisdom.
Okay, so basics on me is entrepreneur, property, music. Main line's always been property. Music's been the sideline that we've gone into. Overall objective is to excel and succeed at whatever we do.
There we go. Also, you brought something with you.
Yep, I also bought a copy of the book here, Secrets of Empowerment, which is something we kind of put out a few years ago just to kind of give an insight and to help people understand what they can achieve.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Because I mean, I've been doing it for a little while now, and over the years we've had various successes in quite a few different arenas. And what I'm just trying to do with the book is just kind of give everyone else an idea of what they can achieve and what they can do with a bit of understanding, a bit of and a lot of persistence.
Thing is, I want to say over the next, I guess, 25 minutes or so, I want to get deep into what has made you who the person you are. I want to get into exactly how it happens, what you still do today, how you still propel forward. I want to get into everything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I want to ask first off, how did it start?
I think it started for me more from a position of being told I couldn't do something, and that's what kind of gave me the ability and the want and desire to basically push forward. So, and it started all the way back in school. Like, I was 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, and my headmaster was a white South African. And he was constantly telling me I wasn't going to amount to anything in life, which is the standard kind of scenario you get, I suppose, in inner city schools these days. Yeah. And for me, it could have worked one or two ways. It could have been a situation where I was like, all right, do you know what, I'm not going to amount to anything, let me resort to road or do something like that. Yeah. But for me, it went the other way. It was a case of, right, well, what you're telling me is I can't get a job, so that means I'm going to have to be an employer as opposed to an employee, and I took it down that route. And I think in life there's always going to be hurdles that are thrown at you, but it's how you deal with them. Do you see what I mean? Because a lot of people will take a situation like that and use it more in a negative thing and use it as to the reasons why they can't achieve whatever they're setting out to achieve.
At 15, when he first said that to you, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, to be fair, I was kind of like, you're kind of demoralised. When people tell you things like, it's self-fulfilling prophecy, so if people tell you things like that enough, you start to believe it. Yeah. And that was where the problem was. And to be fair, I did believe it. I did believe I was unemployable. Yeah. So, but as opposed to me sitting down thinking, right, I'm unemployable, I'm never going to get a job, I just thought, all right, well, I'm going to have to be the employer, which is what led me to open my first business when I was 18 years old.
18.
Yeah.
What was your first business?
Property. My core's always been property, so it was property, lettings and management at the time. And I didn't have a clue about lettings, management, any of it.
At 18, I can imagine.
Yeah. I just went in and I winged it.
Yeah.
and it was fun. It was a challenge. But you learn. I think the best place to learn any business is in the business. I call it the school of hard knocks. Yeah. So you'll go in and you'll lose thousands of pounds maybe. But the lessons you learn are invaluable, and it's similar to going to college and paying for the education. The only difference is you're learning practical knowledge, which is much more, it's a lot more solid than theoretical knowledge. Because theory will give you one thing, practical will give you something else. And so for me, you kind of got to go in and get your hands and feet dirty, get them at ground level and just do what you got to do.
For anyone that's listening, I just want to say on behalf of everyone, yeah, we would just drop some wisdom. I'm just going to say it out early, we would just drop some wisdom and we're going to keep on going for sure. But I wanted to say also with the, you said at 18 is when you actually decided to change things and actually say, I'm going to get into this business and I'm going to take these wins and take these losses. I'm sure there's some 18-year-olds listening to this right now thinking, okay, wait, how did he actually manage to even be put in that?
Yeah, all right. I mean, it's a fun story actually, and it is similar to that. You know, strangely enough, that film Pursuit of Happiness. There was a friend of mine, and he used to drive a Porsche. He had a Porsche 9. Back then, there were 944s convertible. And I literally had a conversation with him and said, what is it you do? He said, I'm into property. Yeah. And I was like, all right, so how does it work? And he told me in a snapshot how the game works, which was you buy a property cheaper, you sell it more expensive in a nutshell. Yeah. And then, so my first bet was, all right, well, let me go away and do that. So I went away, found a property, found a friend of mine, put the deal together. The deal made about 10 grand. He paid me 1,600 and 70 odd pounds, something like that. I remember specifically
because it's back in that days too. That's more,
not just that. It was exactly what I used to open the first office.
Okay.
So literally, I made the commission on the deal, and then I used that to literally get the first little office in Sydenham, and then we just got cracking from there, and it snowballed at a good pace. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was all the money I had in the world. So I remember it down to the penny, and I remember giving it to my mum, saying, "Mummy, can you keep this for me?"
Little did she know.
Did you have a lot of people that may have doubted you because of your age?
Do you know what? Everybody doubted. But I mean, again, in life, you can take that one of two ways. You can either use that to fuel your rocket, or you can use it to keep your rocket from flying. Do you see what I mean? And for me, it was more a case of all the people that said I couldn't do it, that just made me more determined to get it done. And that was it. It's just it. But again, it all comes down to perception and how you see yourself. Do you see what I mean? Because for me, I don't fail, I don't lose. Like whatever it is, I'm winning, and that's always been my ethos.
Whatever it is, I'm winning.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it one more time, just so in case anyone didn't realise. Whatever it is, I am winning.
Whatever the battle is, whatever level it comes on.
So, what was the next stage after you getting that first check? What was the next stage after that?
I mean, to be honest, if I kind of compared it, I'd have to compare it almost to a video game. Because what happened was, in a video game, you got stages. Yeah. So the first stage was lettings and management and property. Then the next stage moved up to, we moved into sales. We started selling, and then we went from the £300-400 commission on a deal to £3,000-4,000 commission on a deal. Then we moved into property development, which was then £30,000 or £40,000 per deal. Do you see what I mean? And now we've moved on to new builds and new homes and things like that. So I mean, it's just I just kind of take it in stages. And once you've conquered one stage, then you move on to the next stage, and that's kind of always been my mentality. Do you see what I mean? I've got to. Because as a person, I've got to keep challenging myself. So you've got to keep pushing to the next level. And I think once you've clocked it, then you move on to the next.
I would even say, to do with this book, I would say going forward, after you achieving all that you've achieved, I think we should still go back to and really understand what it is. Even with this book, many people would say after you've got, well, even looking at it right now, we've got a Lamborghini on the back. I'm just going to say it early. We've got a Lamborghini on the back. Not only have we got a Lamborghini on the back, we've got you sitting down with a pinky ring, just living life.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say, even with that, most people would say you've reached the pinnacle, or you've reached what to some people believe is the pinnacle. Now, after that, what makes you actually say you're going to make a book called The Secrets of Empowerment to empower other people? Because people have this nostalgia that when this happens, when people reach a certain point, they forget about anybody else.
Yeah, to be honest, that's probably the main foundations, which is what made me write the book. Because my reasoning is this: like, don't get me wrong, there's definitely an element of skill involved in what we do, but to a large degree as well, I think you've got to be conscious of the gifts that you receive and be aware and be in a position where you want to give back. So for me, Secrets of Empowerment was more, I don't know what I know. I don't know how I know what I know, but a lot of it was, to me, common sense. But when I'm speaking to other people and they're asking me about setting up various businesses and things like that, I'm realising to them it's not. So for me, I thought, you know what, rather than going over it 10,000 times a day, I can put it in a book and then I can let them understand what I understand. Do you see what I mean? So it was more a case of just A, helping people to see what they can achieve, but B, kind of the core ingredients that I live by, which has kind of made me successful. Do you see what I mean? So we've kind of broken it down just into various elements that to me are fundamentals, like just little sound bites. Like one of them is it only takes a grain of sand to move an island, and you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to understand that whatever you do, however insignificant you may feel it is having an impact on the world, and you can achieve so many things by just doing that little thing. But a lot of people talk themselves out of even trying. Do you see what I mean? And I think self-belief is another one in there, and you've got to be confident in yourself and what you can achieve, because it all starts with a dream. Do you see what I mean? Like businesses, whenever I describe business, I always tell everyone it's glorified gambling. We look at the odds and we make bets. Do you see what I mean? But the difference is we calculate the odds. We calculate all of the intangibles. We calculate all the factors that might go wrong. But the truth of the matter is, it is glorified gambling. You don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. The only way you can can do it, it's a suck it and see. So the truth of the matter is you've got to get involved, get your hands and feet dirty, and then you will see. And just, I think the other thing that I always say to everyone is be sensible. A lot of people think they've got to go into business and spend £1 billion to make 100. The truth of the matter is you always start small and build, do you see what I mean? And you've got to test your market, because you can make all the calculations in the world and things still not be factored in and things still go wrong, and even markets changing and things like that you can't possibly anticipate. So you've just got to suck it and see and kind of get involved and test your market and then go for it. You know, once you feel you're at the right place, you just got to jump, and that's it. I call it the Superman theory. And I'll tell you what it is. This is exactly it for me. When I left school, because when you leave school, I don't know if you guys.
Left school,
yeah. So when you leave school, your attitude is you can achieve anything. Your mindset is you can achieve anything. You've got all of that fight, that spirit, everything. There's nothing that can stop you.
Right.
And then as you go through life, it gets beaten out of you bit by bit. Like you'll have a failure there or a failure there, and it knocks you and knocks your confidence. Now, for me, fortunately enough, because I don't say I'm any smarter than anybody else, but because I don't do failure, we've only ever won. So as a result, it's just a case of continually going up, and I think that's a lion's share of what stops people from achieving what their full potential is. I think other people, and you've got to surround yourself with the right kind of people as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, because people will take away from, they'll take away from your self-belief, and it's your self-belief that gives you the power to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. See what I mean? A dream and then self-belief. Music, even though you can get all of the elements right, it can still there's a large element of luck, and there's a large element of it's sales, but on a massive level. It's the emperor's new clothes. So you've got to have a lot of elements right, and I wouldn't ever rely on, because obviously I've been in music for a while, so I've seen that you wouldn't ever rely on it as a sole source of income. Like if you're going to do music, you need to have something else to support that, something that is a lot more solid from a foundation perspective. So either it be the production side, the engineering side, or whatever the case may be. As an artist, if it's property, it's just product knowledge. It's just product knowledge. Find out as much as you can. And the thing is, there's only one key factor in property. When everyone else is selling, that's when you buy. Yeah. So if you imagine like markets going down, you go in and you buy at rock bottom prices. Because the reality is, it's only ever going to go up after that. Do you see what I mean? A lot of people make the mistake of buying at the wrong time. Do you see what I mean? And there's no emotional attachment involved in business either. So. It's not just knowing when to buy, but it's knowing when to sell. You've got to say, all right, well, do you know what? That's made enough profit, I'm going to get out of that. Do you see what I mean? And I think that's key, but it varies drastically from field to field. So there's no kind of blanket answer I can give, if you see what I mean. But I'm happy to break down each individual one, because it's all a different, it's very different. It's not there's not a carte blanche.
Of course.
You've been in music a long time. What was your main role in music?
Well, we've got a record label, so what we do is we would develop artists to a point, and then we'd license them on to major labels. So we'd take the risk, because the problem with the major labels is they didn't want to take the risk. They didn't want to develop an artist and then put the artist out. So what we did is we held that middle ground. So we would take the risk and develop the artist, and then we'd say, because I think the other problem as well, when a major label develops an artist, what they do is there's too many cooks, and there's too much pressure on them to get it right. So it takes the organic process out of the equation. And what you find is, because there isn't a right or wrong answer, everyone differs. And so no one wants to make a commitment on anything. And if they do make a commitment and it fails, they're sacked. And so it's a very risky business. So I mean, and A&R, I always refer to them as R, because it's safer for them not to make it's safer for them not to make a commitment and keep their job than it is for them to make a commitment, it fail, and they lose their job.
So is music a passion of yours as well? What made you want to get into
do you know what it is?
The
music business is fun. It's fun. The people, there's a lot of people in there that make it less fun, but but it's a fun business, and it's a massive challenge. I mean, when I first started out, it's taking something that, it's literally the emperor's new clothes. I don't know if you know the story, but it's literally taking something that hasn't really got any value. It's not like a house, and then convincing the world that this is the best thing since sliced bread. And it's the whole process of that is fun, because you've got to introduce the radio pluggers, club promotions, and you've got to get everyone on your page, and then ultimately you've got to sell that act. Do you see what I mean? So the music thing is fun, but it's a very risky business. It's a risky business. It's not as risky as property. I mean, property is much more risky. Sorry, property is much less risky, but you'll spend you can spend a lot less and get a massive return on the music stuff. Like when we did the Booty Love project, I think the first record cost us like £500 to make, and then it went on to, it was in the top 10 for about 10 weeks or something like that. I think. So and then as a result, ultimately over the period, we made a good, over the project, we probably made a good meal back on it.
What artists have you worked with in the past, or
worked with? So going back, I did a little bit of work with Mystique. Big Brothers.
They still have that song that I still play. I still play that one song. Yeah.
And also Booty Love we made from Big Brothers.
Yeah.
And then we did another project called Phoenix. And now we're just getting involved. We've got a few other artists. And Sticky, his recent Sticky record. Yeah. So we do a few bits, but it's more a case of stuff that I'm interested in, stuff that, because music can consume your whole day, your whole life, everything. And I think to a large degree, whenever I'm working on a project, I try and be tunnel vision. So it's kind of like you put your blinkers on, you can't focus on too many things at the same time, and music swallows up too much.
What's your favourite artist?
Great question.
Oh wow.
Great question.
Right, are we talking historically?
I mean,
both. Both. No, both.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely.
All right. Well, funnily enough, I was brought up on. Do you remember NWA?
Damn.
Oh yeah.
So I was brought up on that.
Yeah.
That messed me up for a couple of minutes.
How did you feel about that album? Not album. How did you feel about that film?
Yeah, I thought the film was good. I thought it was good. And do you know what? I think it wasn't as controversial as it could have been. I thought it was very safe. But I mean, there was a lot of tracks in there that literally I grew up on. So just on that basis alone, I loved it. You know? So no, it was good fun. It was good fun.
And what would you say currently? Who do you listen to currently?
Do you know what? Funnily enough, I was having this conversation with my daughter in the car the other day. She was like, "Why is it whenever I get in the car, you make me listen to all the acts that you're working on?" I think the answer to that is whatever I've got a financial interest in at the time.
So apart from music, like you said, and property, is there anything else you're venturing into at all?
Oh, do you know what? We've got a few bits. There's a property website that we've set up called Property, which is similar to Rightmove and Zoopla, so that's more internet, and we kind of sell it to estate agents. But the main thing we're looking at now, and the main thing we're getting into, is land and new builds, kind of on that Barratt Homes kind of level. That's where we're going with it. But yeah, cool. It's looking good. We're having fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
We're having fun.
And I know I've seen your information. You see that you're trying to give back to certain communities. How are you trying to do that?
Well, to be fair, we're doing a lot of sponsorship. We're sponsoring like football teams, dance crews and things like that. And the main thing for me is just knowledge and helping them understand what they can do. Do you see what I mean? And giving them the opportunity to do that. So where they need money to do things, we're happy to get involved and just put some sponsorship behind them. And just kind of create opportunities where a lot of people wouldn't, if you see what I mean.
And how do anyone that would be listening to this thinking, oh, I've got something I want to push forward, how would they go about actually doing it?
Well, I think the best thing to do, Martha at Chapter Records, if you send it to her,
I hear that.
She'll get it directly to me.
I hear that.
Yeah.
So also, where are you from?
As in area?
Yeah.
Southeast. Southeast London.
Yes. I saw that brimming and smile.
Yeah. South London are proud.
You got now South London.
Of course. That's the only way,
right? Me and James looking at each other like,
Where are you guys from?
West London.
Oh, West. Okay. It's alright. It's not as good as
But I was going to say also with South London, what was it like growing up? Because I guess I'm guessing in your time growing up, South London had a bit of a reputation.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's always, I think in life you make choices. Do you see what I mean? Don't get me wrong. When I was in school, I was by no means at all a well-behaved child. Like I was a problem. Like I wasn't. But I think it was mainly because I was quite outspoken and I wasn't taking rubbish, so for them it was a problem. I think I actually had the record in my school of suspensions. I got suspended 13 times between years 2 and 5, so I had the record. But it wasn't because
shout out to that teacher.
Yeah, he had it in for me. He had a whole plan, but it didn't work. But he had a plan. But I mean, it was one of those where, for me, so because by the time I got to like year 4, I decided, well, if I don't go to school, I can't get expelled. and then at least I'll do my exams.
Can we just say that was in year 4?
Yeah, I was like 14, yeah, I remember it. I'd worked it out because I thought if I'm in school, the probability says that the more I'm there's a higher probability I'm going to be expelled, I'm not going to have any GCSEs, and I'll have a real problem. So I kind of narrowed it down to 2 days a week, and then, but it's because they kept suspending me. I mean, one time they suspended me for being in school when I was suspended. That's how unreasonable they were. I literally turned up to school, not knowing I was suspended, gone to school, and they added to my suspension for being in school when I was suspended. So it was, yeah, it was, but it was more, it wasn't this, alright, I wasn't the best behaved, but it wasn't because of that, it was more because I was very, very outspoken and the teachers didn't like it. And I think my headmaster said to me blatantly, and he was quite blatant about it, he said, in every group of people we have leaders and we have followers, and my job is to eliminate the leaders so everyone else falls into place like sheep.
Interesting.
And that was an exact quote.
What's your someone that is successful and clearly always moving forward? I would like to know your perceptions. I have my own theories for it. I wanted to know what your perception of the school system actually is in terms of what they teach us and what they don't teach us. What's your perception of it?
Do you know what I think? And it's a fine line, because I think to a large degree the school system itself wants to kind of turn out people to do the work. So if you imagine you've got the sheep and you've got the shepherd, and the school system to a large degree will turn out the sheep. Do you see what I mean? And if you're outside of that, there's very few schools that cater for it because they want you to do exactly what you're told. And so to me, I think there's a lot of problems with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the foundation is education, but it still comes down to what you're teaching people to do. Do you see what I mean? Whether you're teaching them to lead or whether you're teaching them to follow. And I think with a lot of schools, what I've observed over the years is that they are teaching people to a large degree not to think for themselves, but to follow. And I think that's where the fundamental problem lies. And not just that, it's also coupled with things like media, TV programs and things like that, which automatically portray certain images, especially of young black youths. Do you see what I mean? Which again are what fulfills people's perceptions on again what they can achieve. Do you see what I mean? So,
well, speaking on that, with black males and certain things like that, where do you think the black community go wrong in terms of business? Because it doesn't seem like we have a lot of role models as yourself. And you see what I'm saying?
You know what?
And I don't understand why that is.
I can tell you what my theory is, and I don't know how accurate it is or isn't, but my theory is it comes down to long-term views and perception. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know if any of you have heard the saying belly full for a day. I find a lot of black people in business, they're not thinking long-term. So they're not thinking about customer service, they're not thinking about the long-term implications of doing bad business. So they'd rather kind of do what I'd call a smash and grab. They'd rather do a bit of business now, get as much money as they can, but never have that customer again. Whereas in any business, it's about, especially customer facing. Yeah, you've got to think about long term. You've got to make sure that every customer, to the best of your ability, leaves happy. And if that's the case, then ultimately they'll recommend their friends and their friends' friends, and as a direct result, your business will grow. That's one of the keys, I think, in anything. Because if you've got bad service, you're not going back. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't matter whose business it is. And that's the key.
Well, in terms of business, like anybody venturing into anything, what the type of people would you say? Who should you avoid? Who should you look up to?
That's a great question again.
Who's vital to keep around you, basically?
There's a chapter in the book called Avoid the Unhappy and the Unlucky.
There we go.
Right,
Oh damn, I don't really get unlucky.
I tell you the main focus for that is, to me, there's a lot of people out there that are, well, they're just unlucky. Like, we all know them, but they're not necessarily unlucky because they're unlucky. They're unlucky because they believe they're unlucky. So no matter what it is or whatever happens, it's always a problem. It's always a drama. It's always grief. It's always and then they're always moaning. They're always whinging. Like all of that negativity is just bad form, and it doesn't help anybody. So to me, I think the people you need around you are positive people, and people that haven't achieved can't necessarily teach you how to achieve. Don't get me wrong though, everyone has knowledge in every area, so you can't be ignorant to the point where you're turning around and saying, right, you don't know anything about it, because everyone has an insight into everything. Whether or not they've made it work or haven't made it work, they'll still have an understanding. So, and it's never about being arrogant either, it's more about just taking on board what everyone says and you're throwing away the garbage and keeping the rest. Like there's a chapter in there as well. There's a chapter in there as well called if you take a if you take advice from the tramp in the street, tell him to move over.
But I'm gonna read this book.
Listen, I can't wait.
I'm gonna read this book.
I can't wait.
I don't know about you, but I'm taking that to a copy.
I'm taking this one. This is mine. It's in my hands right now. It's not going anywhere.
And it's basically that. It's saying you've got no, or is it? I think it's actually called qualify your source of information. But the main essence of it is you've got to look at who's giving you information and how successful they've been at it. Do you see what I mean? Because everyone wants to give you advice, but the truth of the matter is not everybody knows the answer to the equation you're dealing with. So,
tunnel vision.
Yeah, so for the listeners that are listening, where can they pick up this book if they wanted to grab on
Amazon. You can get one on Amazon.
Very official. Very official.
Yes.
Also,
Amazon.
I wanted to say one thing. I think it's a good thing that we've got to this. We've already said you're successful. It's clearly you're successful. You're on the back of a book with a Lamborghini. It says clearly you're successful, and the way you speak is clearly you're successful, and the reason why you're successful. But I want to say it's a good thing that we've got to this stage of the conversation, and we can say that we're only now talking about it. But for you, in terms of your years of experience, in terms of being a black man in business, what kind of trials or tribulations, or any, have you come across specifically being a black man in business?
Do you know what's funny? When I first started in business, because one of the things that I was very conscious of was the fact that there were very few black role models in business. So for me, I mean, when we started out, it was Charles Gordon Estates, and the reason for that was Charles Gordon didn't sound like a black man. So for me, the objective was not to be the black man in business, because I know all the negative connotations that come with it. So I was in the office doing the viewings, I had a little girl answering the telephones, and when anyone asked what Charles Gordon's view was, I used to go and ask him.
Interesting.
Because I say in Rome, you got to do as the Romans do, and they had an image of what it was, and it wasn't my job to destroy that image. They wanted to see that, and they wouldn't even have understood a young black guy being in charge. So for me, it was a case of, you play the game. Do you see what I mean?
We had a conversation like this the other day.
What was the conversation? I can't remember. Say it.
I said, this is exactly what Charles just said. If we were going to do something, exactly what Charles just said.
Yeah.
The same thing what you just explained.
I see.
Yeah.
You kind of make out that you're like almost the middleman.
Yeah.
And you're going to someone else.
Yeah.
Sure. Do you know what it is? You give them what you expect to see. Everyone's got perceptions, even in business. They've got perceptions. They've got things that they expect to see, and you've got to deliver. Do you see what I mean? Like there's one of the earlier chapters in there is when you go into the business, it's a performance of a lifetime. Because at the end of the day, you're performing every element. It's like if you're a doctor and you're a crap doctor, you go and work at a crap doctor's firm and you're a good doctor. Do you see what I mean? In business, there's other things that are relevant to symbolic of success, so you need to deliver. Do you see what I mean? Because it's like one of those, I'm not going to take financial advice from someone who isn't financially successful, because that wouldn't make me smart. Do you see what I mean? But then ultimately someone who is financially successful, I would take financial advice from, because ultimately they clearly know what they're doing because they've done it. So it's more a case of those are the elements, and I think you've got to be fully conscious of what image is being portrayed.
I wouldn't even say, just for anyone that's listening to, I realise someone did call, but we haven't got that system set up yet, so that we couldn't have taken it. And one thing I want to say is, with yourself and moving forward, I would say that you seem to be one person that I think on a mindset level, I would say if you lost what you had today, you strike me as the type of person that could make it straight back up.
Yeah.
And I want people who are listening to this to really remember the mindset of it.
Yeah.
The mindset of the fact that you are probably able to do this again because you've got the mindset.
Well, that's the reality, and the truth of the matter is, no matter whatever gets taken from you throughout your life, no one can take your brain. And the reality is, no matter what they do, no matter what they come with, once you've learned how to make it once, you'll always be able to make it again. And the reality is, again, even stepping back from that, is it doesn't matter how many times you get hit. Business, that's what it is. And if you get hit, it's a learning curve. So the only thing you do is you take lessons from that. Don't ever take it as a defeat, because at the end of the day, all you've learned is what not to do. That's the only thing you've learned. If you get it wrong, you've learned what not to do next time. And it's like Einstein. I heard that there was who's the guy that invented the light bulb? It wasn't I? It was that guy. What's his name?
If you say the name.
Alright, I'm not even going to get into it because it's been a couple of minutes. But I mean, it's one of those, it's never done on the first attempt. And no matter what business it is you're going into, it's got to be a similar scenario. Do you see what I mean? And as you get in there and get your hands and feet there, you learn what not to do. So you might have 5 or 10 failures at it. But the truth of the matter is, as long as you keep going, ultimately you'll reach the line of success. But you've just got to stay on it, and you've got to stay tunnel vision and focused. And it's I have a saying, death before dishonour. Only way we're not winning is if we're dead. And you keep going until you achieve it, and that's it. It's not complicated. It's more about persistence, and it's more about getting back on the bike every time you fall off. You know, because you will fall off. No matter how great you are, you will always make mistakes. That's just life. No one doesn't make mistakes, but it's what you do when you encounter them that determines your strength and character as a man, in my opinion.
For sure. And I would also want to say, do you want to talk about self-belief?
Yeah, I mean, for me, self-belief is one of the main factors. It's whatever it is. I mean, you'll always get people around you that are constantly telling you you can't do it. But self-belief for me is the main key driving force, because as long as you believe you can do it, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. And no matter how much they drum into your head, I mean, if you allow them that close to you, that is, but no matter how much they drum into your head, you can't do it. You've just got to keep focused, keep determined, and you will achieve the goal. And that's it. Self-belief is the major part. It's the major part. And as it comes back, as I said, to the Superman theory earlier. You just got to believe that there's nothing you can't do. And once you focus on it and you tunnel vision it, because the truth of the matter is, if it's been done before, why can't you do it?
Exactly.
You know, there's no one that's got any. You're not built with any different equipment to you. So why can't you achieve it? And that's the fundamental difference right there. It's more about your focus and just staying on it.
Where's Charles Gordon going from today onwards?
So today we're doing
holiday.
You know what? I don't really do holidays. You know, I don't really. Do you know what it is? I enjoy working. So holidays to me, and it's a funny little ethos at the moment, because I think funny people are quite funny about work. Like you talk to them about work, it's like you're swearing at them.
That's true. Yeah.
But I enjoy it. And
But if you enjoy it, it's not work.
That's the point. That's the point. So yeah. So even when I'm away, I'm still on my mobile, I'm still coordinating stuff, I'm still making stuff happen. So there's never so much as you don't have a break. You're just on it, yeah. And wherever you are in the world, to be honest, with technology these days, this don't make no difference. Yeah, you just crack on.
True. Yeah. Lastly, we are coming to the end of this. Sadly, I'm gonna say sadly. I've been taking.
I could have did this all day.
You know what I mean?
Oh man,
genuinely. I wanted to ask, is there anything lastly that you wanted to, as a person, did you want to throw out? Because I know there's many people hanging on to your last words here. So yeah.
Oh gosh, you put it on me.
You put it on you.
You put it on me. That's where I start stuttering now. I mean, do you know what it is? I mean, I'm available with that. I want to help. I get my joy is in helping, if you see what I mean. So for me, and I think in life and in the universe, you kind of get out what you get back what you put out there. So I try and do my bit to help who I can when I can. So I mean, if anyone wants input, I mean, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, all of those things, but Twitter, I think it's Charles Gordon UK. Even if someone just wants ideas, because I get some people coming to me with ideas in business that are never going to work, and I'm not one to to urinate on it, as it were. But sometimes it's not going to work, and there might be another way they can approach it where they might have more success. So for me, sometimes even if it's just a little bit of advice and things like that, because the more people, like I've helped a lot of people open a lot of businesses over the years, and it's more a case for me of one of the key factors I've always said is your network is your net worth. So the people around you that make things happen, they're ultimately your value. So all the people that I help, and I've never done it for financial gain, it's more been about the favours, because those favours are invaluable. I mean, a lot of people don't realise the business world isn't based on money, it's based on relationships. And once you've got those relationships, you can make anything happen anyway. So the key for me has always been about, never been about, right, let's charge someone this, charge someone that, I'll do you the favour there, you do me the favour there, and that's how business grows. Do you see what I mean? So it's just about...
I would even say,
exciting stuff, man. I'm so excited to respond. Honestly, I just want to go on the train now.
I'm just going to take the book now from James and I'm giving it back. But now he's taking it back from me again. But I wanted to say also, I think we can all safely say now when Charles Gordon names comes out, we're going to call you Uncle.
Oh,
So now LD and RBS.
I don't know how I feel
Now,
about that.
for sure. So yeah, that was a great interview. Literally, we're going to be back in a little bit. But yeah, that was Charles Gordon.